Now, today, an African leader won a prize for not being corrupt. Former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan gave the first Mo Ibrahim Prize to Joaquim Chissano, the widely respected former president of Mozambique. The scale of the problem posed by corruption, however, is vast, and nowhere more so than in Nigeria. It's a country with enviable natural wealth, which should make it one of the richest countries in the world. But its population lives largely in poverty because that wealth is plundered. Some of Nigeria's wealth is spent here in Britain, and recently the government launched a new initiative to crack down on the worldwide assets of corrupt African leaders. For more 4 News, Andrew Thomas will be reporting throughout this week from Nigeria, one of Africa's most extraordinary countries. Tonight, on the trail of dirty money from London to the Nigerian oil fields.
Oil workers, many British, kidnapped. Young children too. A city the size of Sheffield under months of curfew. People subjected to police checkpoints, their hands raised to prove they carry no guns. Cars shot up, scores killed. This is Port Harcourt, southern Nigeria. And this is London, an apartment in this swish block near Paddington Station, a large family house a couple of miles away, a flat in this luxury development just around the corner. They seem far removed from the violence of the Delta, but in fact they're all too connected. Money siphoned off through endemic corruption in the oil industry is being spent, invested and laundered in our capital city.
There is no doubt about it that most of the governors, including those in the Niger Delta, looted the treasury of their states.
No one should be allowed to enjoy the fruits of criminality, and just because a crime is committed abroad doesn't make those assets any less criminal.
The black gold of its southern Delta region has helped make Nigeria the 8th biggest oil producer on earth. But that position is under threat. Despite the wealth of their land, very little oil money makes it back to the people of the Delta.
There are problems of poverty, problems of environmental degradation. Healthcare system has definitely broken down to the extent that groups like Medicine Sans Frontier are now in the Delta. And of course, considering the amount of wealth you have in the Delta, there is no reason why Medicine Sans Frontier should be there. They should be able to have the best quality healthcare that money can buy.
In reaction, a slow-burning war is underway between the people of the Delta and those they see as milking their wealth. The number of kidnappings is at an all-time high. The tally since early 2006, 200 and counting. Oil pipelines are routinely sabotaged. In the summer in Port Harcourt, the region's main city, there were running battles in the streets.
It was outright mayhem. They burned down places, they broke down glasses of houses and tore the windows and broke down the ceilings.
The impact of all this on the oil production industry is huge. Shell, the main operator, hit hard.
If you take 2006 as a benchmark, we were down something like 50% on the production in 2005, and it's remained at that sort of level up to now.
It isn't easy to feel too much sympathy for an oil company which, last year, made £35 million a day in profits. But Shell retort by saying that 95% of their Nigerian profits are handed straight back to the Nigerian government, who are then supposed to feed that back, in large part, to the communities from which the oil came. That the money fails to reach them explains the involvement of the British police, a special unit investigating cases where they think money siphoned off corruptly in Africa is being offshored here. The culprits, the Met Police allege, the former governors of the oil-rich states.
In one case, the money that was due to pay for standpipes in villages was taken away and used to benefit somebody over here to buy them a nice house, buy them a nice car, and buy them still or sparkling water, depending on their choice.
When Nigeria's president, Yar'Adua, was sworn in May, he promised to crack down on corruption by giving a free rein to an agency called the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Initially, the EFCC's work was praised. They supplied information that helped freeze the 3 London homes of Diepri Alamasia, a former governor of Bayelsa State. Searching this property in London, the Met found a suitcase containing almost £1 million in cash. Alamasia jumped bail in the UK, but was arrested when he returned to Nigeria, eventually jailed. The Met Police's next target, though, is a much bigger fish. James Ibori, former governor of Delta State and the major financial backer of the president's election campaign. In August, the Met Police froze $35 million worth of his assets, but there the investigation stalled, allegedly because the EFCC is not being fully cooperative because of political pressure on it. A letter from the UK's chief prosecutor to Nigeria's justice minister said a failure by the authorities there to supply evidence had led to major difficulties with the case.
It is important for every president to try and distance himself from the institutions fighting corruption and give them independence. You know, if you don't do that, you are going to be involved in politicization of the process of fighting corruption.
There's been allegations that the president will not go after people who allegedly funded his campaign, but as far as he's concerned, it's the rule of law must prevail, first of all, and secondly, must have the best resolution that's best for Nigeria, best for the people of the Niger Delta.
There's no hard evidence that James Ibori's done anything wrong. He's not been formally accused. But to discuss these issues generally, I tracked down a number for his spokesman and asked him to set up a chat.
Hello, is that Shedi? I was hoping we could organise an interview with Mr. Ibori. He would like to speak to us and talk about the issues. He'd like to talk about the Niger Delta, yeah. And he'd like to talk about the President of the country, right, his support for him. He doesn't want to talk about the allegations of financial fraud against him. He's on holiday, so his plans are a bit up in the air, are they? Is he not concerned about being arrested if he comes back to London? It's a straight no comment until he says his piece is in court. His assets aren't frozen. Isn't a restriction order the same as temporarily frozen, though? Is that not the same thing? No one gives up on their assets just like that. No, that's £20 million worth, I'm told. But when's he planning his trip to London? I see, so if he comes.
So in the absence of Ibori, what would the EFCC be able to tell me about his case or the allegations of political interference in their work more generally? After 2 weeks' negotiation, I was given an appointment to meet with the EFCC's head in Nigeria, but when I arrived, he wasn't there.
Well, we had an appointment with the chairman of the EFCC. This is his chair, but unfortunately he's not here. He stood us up for an urgent business meeting with the president. That won't stop allegations that the president and the EFCC are too close, that the president can interfere in the EFCC's investigations.
This all matters because there are allegations that, as well as buying flashy assets, corrupt politicians have directly funded violence in the Delta, that using illegally siphoned money, they funded their own militias and armed support groups during the recent elections.
Most of the money that the senior government officials took in the Niger Delta was used to sustain the militants who in turn helped them in their political activities. We have a leadership in Nigeria that is worse than natural disaster. What we have in the name of elections in this country is something worse than brigandage. It's clear armed robbery. People just abduct result sheets. So anybody who has superior firepower can easily be declared a winner.
Well, again, you know, the issues of the election are being dealt with in tribunals, and I think that's the right way forward. Within the system, we have means of redress, and the President has encouraged all those who are aggrieved to go to the tribunals to raise their grievances. Again, the rule of law must apply.
Fighting financial irregularity isn't as glamorous as fighting wars. It's a process that works at a glacial pace. But when the British government and police talk of cracking down on corruption as a way to address African poverty, this is the quagmire into which they stray. Andrew Thomas, More 4 News, Nigeria.
And we'll have another report from Nigeria tomorrow night. Coming up on More 4 News.